Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the podcast. My name is Toby,
And I'm Seth.
and we are the Swinny Bros.
We welcome you to the Swinny Bros podcast.
So, in today's episode, we're going to be covering, of course, breaking news, all of the week 2, action that happened, the boring games, the fast-paced games, all of the heartbreaking injuries. But first, we really want to talk about everything going around the league right now, breaking news, and probably the biggest news of the week, season-ending injuries, or at least close to it. Austin Eckler has went out and is out for the remainder of the season with a torn Achilles. And if you're a Commanders fan, that's got to sting because Jane Daniels is also going to be missing a few weeks with a sprained knee.
Yeah, that's really rough hearing about Austin Eckler. I didn't see him go down, but they said that he was having trouble getting back up. So I hate to hear that for Austin Eckler. That's a tough injury to try to come back from. But on the flip side of the coin, the Commanders are moving Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt to that running back one position. So I'm curious to see how he breaks out. Speedy recovery for Austin Eckler.
Definitely want to keep your prayers and eyes on him. Hopefully he has a good recovery. That's a hard injury to recover from. NBA or NFL apiece, it's never a good thing to tear anything, but especially your Achilles. That's not good. Another big news of which is going on with several players across the league, just most notably recently, is Joe Burrow with turf toe, however you want to pronounce it. A lot of people have a common misunderstanding of what causes that to happen in the first place. So I'm going to give you the proper medical diagnosis. Turf toe or metatarsophalangeal joint sprain is an injury that affects your big toe joint. It happens when your toe remains on the ground and your heel lifts, causing your toe to hyperextend. This motion causes soft tissues and ligaments in your big toe joint to stretch or tear. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow did experience some tears. So a big problem that this happens, why this happens across the NFL, is playing on turf. A lot of times it doesn't have the same sort of motion or grip as normal regular playing grass. This has been requested in the NFL for a long time. People are wanting NFL players themselves to play on grass again. So we're hoping that with all of these massive injuries that keep happening throughout, that the NFL will reconsider using turf so often. But for now, Joe Burrow is going to be sidelined. What did they say, for at least 3 months?
3 months, yeah, at least. But Stephania Bell was talking about it yesterday, and she said that with an injury like that, having to have surgery, the best case scenario is like 15 or 16 weeks.
Ugh.
So he's probably not going to be coming back from this injury for this season because we're already going into week 3. If he's out, best case scenario, 15 weeks with recovery time and everything. I don't know that you want to do that to your franchise quarterback. That's not looking good for him. I'd say he's probably going to be out for the rest of the season.
Starting to get a extensive list of injuries, which you got to feel for Bengals fans. You got to feel for him, and you got to feel for fantasy owners, especially if you have, it's tough. It's a tough go around. Another player I wanted to go over was Khalil Mack. I watched the game, and I watched this injury happen live, and it looked really, really bad. Thankfully, according to everything I've read, he only dislocated his elbow, so he should only be out for a few weeks. He's at least out against the Broncos, which makes me happy, but he's likely just a few weeks. I thought he broke it. Like when you looked at the replay, his arm was pointed the other direction. It looked like a complete breakage of the elbow.
I mean, for a big guy like that to come off the field, something bad.
But he's going to be out for a few weeks at least, so that's going to definitely impact the Chargers. And then someone else you just mentioned this morning, Seth, going out.
Another big injury happened Thursday night's game. Jayden Reed. The initial report was Jayden Reed was likely to miss 6 to 8 weeks because he broke his collarbone. From the desk of Adam Schefter this morning, he has wound up having to undergo surgery on both a broken clavicle and a Jones fracture in his left foot. The surgery was successful. He posted successful foot and clavicle surgery, thank God, on his social media page. But Jayden Reed is now out indefinitely, so that's going to be rough for the Packers.
Of course, the Packers have emerged as elite level this season, especially with their defense. So you never want to lose anyone on the offensive side of things, especially one of your top receivers. So that's going to sting a little bit for Green Bay. Any other injuries
I've
or
got three
recovers?
more on here to go
Holy
over.
cow.
And if you see me on my phone, it's not that I'm not into the broadcast. My document went upload to my drive this morning, so I'm having to use my phone. We got two notable injuries on the Vikings. JJ McCarthy got a high ankle sprain, and he's expected to be out 2 to 4 weeks. Yesterday, September the 16th, Aaron Jones was placed on injured reserve by the Vikings after incurring a hamstring injury during the Falcons game. And then also, the New York Jets starting quarterback Justin Fields is in concussion protocol, and his status for week 3 is unclear. Coach Aaron Glenn is expected and prepared to start Tyrod Taylor should Justin Fields not clear concussion protocol.
Lots and lots of injuries. This is the National Football League, but you just hate to see that.
Welcome to week 3, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been a doozy. It's been an absolute doozy of a week so far. So with that being said, we've adapted a little bit and understood that as much as we'd love to talk about every single game that happens, we just don't have the time for that. And so we both picked 5 games. We don't know who picked what, but we both picked 5 games to go over. That was our games of the week. That gives us enough time to really go in depth about it, to discuss anything we wish to discuss about it, and also have time for other fun things on the podcast. So we'll just split this apart, game apiece. I'll go over a game, Seth will go over a game, and we'll discuss it. So my first game of the week, this one's probably very blatantly obvious, was the Broncos and the Colts. This was a high-paced, high-action offensive game on both sides of the ball. Both defenses had moments where they really took control of the game, but this was heavy on the offense. Daniel Jones had a outstanding game. I think Bo Nix had a much better showing this week compared to the first week. He really picked it up. Jonathan Taylor absolutely was on a rampage in this game. Troy Franklin really stepped up. One of the newer receivers of the Broncos core really had a great game. Of course, that chemistry with Bo Nix is really starting to develop. That big question mark for the Broncos receiving room is looking like it's starting to turn more into solitary with Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton as Bo Nix's primary targets, and of course Marvin Mims Jr. with that touchdown reception. I think J.K. Dobbins really had a great game too. He was able to break out when he needed to. The Colts did a good job of adapting throughout this game, and I think the Broncos did too, but really, as much as everyone, including myself, was so upset about the leveraging call, that wasn't the reason the Broncos lost the game. The Broncos had numerous opportunities, including that fourth quarter interception thrown by Bo Nix. They had opportunities, the doink on the field goal. They could have put the game away, and they should have. So I can't blame it just on the leveraging call, but I am just calling that leveraging call a straight crap, because if you look at the Colts field goal that they kicked, the Broncos field goals that they had kicked, the Colts were doing the same exact thing. There's clips everywhere. You can find clips everywhere of people comparing the Colts field goals to the Broncos field goals. If you're going to call it, you have to be fair. I'm calling NFL out on that one. That was just straight crap. Either way, though, it was the Broncos game to win. It was a fun game to watch, and honestly, I think it was impressive on both sides of the ball, and I think that could be a potential, playoff contending matchup in the future, because the Colts really are starting to establish themselves, at least in the first 2 weeks. I won't jump to conclusions, but I think both teams look pretty good.
That was also one of my games of the week, so I'll just comment a little bit. Just some notes that stood out to me. Daniel Jones with 316 passing yards. This man has been on fire for the last couple of weeks. Like you said, Jonathan Taylor, he had 25 carries for 165 yards. Tyler Warren, 79 yards. So I like tight ends. That is one of my favorite positions in football, is a tight end. It's one of the most versatile positions. You got the pass block, the run block, the receiver aspect of it. And I love involvement in tight ends, and I really like to see him evolving and just becoming better as the passing weeks go. I'll pull up the box score real quick here. Total yards of offense, the Colts had 473 total yards of offense to the Denver's 324. I mean, the Denver Broncos still put up 324 yards. The biggest problem that the Broncos had was they had 8 penalties for 83 yards. that's going to hurt. And a lot of that just comes down to discipline. And, they're still a young team. But both players looked good to me. Both teams were looking really solid. I mean, Bo Nix, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. J.K. Dobbins had a touchdown, 14 carries for 76 yards. Both teams were looking really good. It was definitely an exciting game. Very exciting game. So, my number one ultimate game of the week, to me, I don't know how it could even be up for discussion, was the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. What a game. 40-37 Dallas from overtime. And just to throw some stats out here, Russell Wilson, 450 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 30 for 41 on completions. Just like, wow. Like, how long has it been since Russell Wilson's put up those kind of numbers?
Almost broke his record.
Dak Prescott, 38 for 52, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 361 yards. We saw a big roll from Javonte Williams during this game. He had 18 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. That's refreshing to see if you're a Cowboys fan, I'm sure. Somebody dominating that backfield. CeeDee Lamb had a good game with 112, but I think the star wide receiver for the game was Malik Neighbors with 167 yards, 9 receptions, 2 touchdowns. And something else, that really stood out to me was, okay, Malik Neighbors had 167 yards. Taken on the other side of the coin, and Wan'Dale Robinson had 8 receptions for 142 yards and 1 touchdown. So, just between those two guys, that's 309 pass receiving yards just between those two guys. I mean, this was the ultimate air tag. George Pickens stepped up a little bit this game. He got 68 yards and a touchdown. But something that really stood out to me that you don't see as often anymore is you get 10 minutes for overtime. They used every minute down to the last second. Brandon Aubrey kicked that field goal just as time expires in overtime to seal the deal for the Cowboys. I don't know what happened to the Giants from week 1 to week 2, but whatever lit that fire needs to keep igniting for the Giants. I was like, who is this team? It's not the people that just got their butts handed to them by the Washington Commanders. What a crazy game. Game of the week for sure.
Absolutely. Can't argue with that without a doubt. Cowboys and Giants was also my elite game of the week. That was just fun to watch. You kept seeing, you kept getting the do-do-do because it was just a Cowboys Giants highlight, over and over and over again. Like, it was nonstop. And the emergence of Wan'Dale Robinson, who was on the waivers for fantasy this week, is definitely not on the waivers anymore in any league. I can tell you that now. There's no way no one picks him up across the leagues. Fantastic performance all around. Russell Wilson's record was 454 passing yards. He was off by 4 yards. That just goes to show how incredible this game was. But that's not to overshadow Dak Prescott's 361 yards, which is unreal. He only had 2 touchdown passes and did throw an interception, but both quarterbacks traded on the interceptions. I mean, the highlight of this game between the Russell Wilson still has, in my opinion, the most beautiful deep pass of anyone in the league. That dude, when he just aims back and throws, it's just gorgeous. Even if it's not caught, even if it's intercepted, you just sit there and you're just like, wow, that's a nice football. But the 64-yard field goal by Brandon Aubrey was just unreal. It's 37-34. You're like, wow, the Giants are going to pull this off. And Brandon Aubrey just comes out like the absolute Chad that he is and is like, I got this cake. He could have done 70 yards easy off of that kick. It was, you talk about shock and you talk about heartbreak for the Giants. If you're a Giants fan and a Tennessee Vols fan, you probably are just never coming back to sports after this week. You got to take a couple weeks off because it's been rough. But this was a fantastic game. Even Cam Scatabo, he didn't have crazy numbers, but still 45 yards rushing and a touchdown, and had a couple catches too on the flip side. He's starting to get comfortable in this role, that rookie. A lot of eyes were on him wondering if he was going to be able to jump into this Giants offense. So good on both sides of the ball. That was just a fun football game. It was a duel. We didn't think anything was really going to be able to match the Bills and the Ravens, and it's not on that caliber, but it was still fun. It was fast paced, and it's still early in the season. Of course, it is a rivalry game, so what else could you
Oh,
expect? But that
pretty
was
close, though, because the Giants put up 21 points in the fourth quarter and the Cowboys put up 20 in the fourth quarter. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you look at this game statistically from the first 3 quarters, sleeper fest. The fourth quarter, everything changed. Literally everything. My third game of the week, and it wasn't really, it was for complete different reasons than the Cowboys and the Giants. I've got the Lions and the Bears. And the reason that I had this as a game of the week was just because it was pure unfiltered dominance and destruction by the Lions. If you took a team from week 1 like the Giants who said, "You know what? We looked bad. We got our butts handed to us. Let's change that." It was the Lions. They came and they answered and they delivered. Absolute decimation against the Bears. Jared Goff had 5 touchdown passes against a Chicago defense that is typically touted as one of the better defenses in the league. 5 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 3 of those touchdown passes from Jared Goff. It was pure decimation. The Bears were spinning in circles. They had no clue what was happening. This Bears team that looked so consistent for 3 quarters against the Vikings died. They were nowhere. They were on the opposite side. They were in La La Land. I don't know what happened to them, but the Lions looked like, if you had any questions about, oh man, maybe the Lions fell off this year because they didn't perform well against the Packers, they performed pretty dang well, to the point where it was shocking to me, because 52 points against the Bears, a Bears defense that, I considered picking up in fantasy. I'm really glad I didn't. Like, that's insane. 334 yards. Jared Goff only missed 5 passes.
wow.
Only missed 5 passes. 334 yards, 5 touchdowns, a QBR of 94.1. Jahmyr Gibbs, 94 rushing yards and a touchdown. David Montgomery, 57 yards and a touchdown. I mean, anything that they wanted to do, passing through the air, whatever, strong defense, it was there. 511 total yards.
Guess who's
It's
back?
like a
Back.
college game. It's like Tennessee playing ETSU. It was pure decimation. That's not to overshadow that the Bears put up 339 total yards of offense, but it was just the Lions were one step above
How
everything.
many points did the Bears score in that game?
21.
Wow.
Only 21. The Lions scored 14, 14, 10, and 14.
Wow.
Like, it was elite in every sense of the fashion. They were 6 for 7 in the red zone. I mean, time of possession was almost identical. 29 minutes for the Bears and 30 minutes for the Lions. But the scoreboard completely just says otherwise. That was crazy. At one point, it was 28-14, and after that, just turned the TV off. The Lions. So that was my third game of the week, just because of the pure decimation factor.
Okay, my third game of the week I chose was the Battle of the Cats. Had the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jacksonville Jaguars. A close game, 31-27 Cincinnati. Props to Jake Browning for stepping in and taking over for Joe Burrow after the injury. He was a little shaky, but the talent that this man has around him, he still was able to get 241 passing yards. It was 21 for 32, got 2 touchdowns. He was able to hit Jamar Chase for 165 yards. I mean, close game, really close game. It was even for the first quarter, 7-7. Bengals got outscored in the second. Jacksonville scored 10. Cincinnati scored 3. Then the Jaguars got outscored 14-7 in the third. And then, there was a score every quarter. 27-31. What a close game. Trevor Lawrence coming in with 271. So, that ought to tell you right there, just comparing Trevor Lawrence and Jake Browning's stats. 271 to 241 passing yards for a guy when was the last time he snapped a football? When he was in Denver? It's been a little while. Travis Etienne, so wishing I had drafted him in fantasy. I know what I said in the first episode. I got burned by him, but he is you're definitely seeing the rebirth of Travis Etienne this year. He's really looking good. And somebody else that really just kind of surfaced for the Jaguars this game was Parker Washington. Parker Washington had a really good game. 5 receptions for 76 yards. His average was 15.2 yards. That's fantastic. Fantastic. So, that was an interesting game. I picked the Jaguars on that one to win because just for the fact that Cincinnati played like absolute garbage the week before. It's like, who's these guys? But, it just, there goes any given Sunday. Real quick before we move on, total yards. The Jaguars put up 400 total yards. Bengals 350. Bengals had one more turnover than the Jaguars. Pretty even. Jaguars had a little bit more penalty yards. Time of possession that was the big thing that was surprised me, was Jacksonville had it for 33-11 versus Cincinnati's 26-49. But just that was a good game. You just, whoever shows up to play is going to play. But it was nice to see, especially for fantasy managers. I know that has Jamar Chase, just to be reassured that it's okay. He's back and he's playing. I know a lot of people are a little questionable about Jake Browning, but I feel like with the talent that this man has around him, he threw 3 interceptions. Yeah, that's true. But he's got to get in there and get a groove. But I think with this group of guys that he's got, he's just going to be able to just ride this train and just keep on keeping on.
Well, my fourth game of the week was also the Bengals and the Jaguars. I'll just briefly skim over this because Seth highlighted a lot of the major points from this game. I mean, it wasn't just Jake Browning throwing interceptions. Trevor Lawrence also had 2 interceptions. Of course, Joe Burrow's injury really made an impact. And I think Browning being able to come into the game and take over and take control and still lead his team to victory does speak volumes about your backup quarterback. A lot of teams are going to have to evaluate their backup quarterbacks. We're going to see that this week later on in the segment. But really, yeah, coming in and being able to take control of the game and get the victory over the Jaguars, who are a very good team. I really do think the Jaguars are looking good. Goes to show Jamar Chase obviously had a breakout, an awesome game. And Travis Etienne, I mean, if you all remember him in college on that Clemson team, people thought this dude was going to be like the next Derrick Henry. I mean, he was running over everyone. That Clemson super team, that Clemson super squad, it was like, wow, these guys, they're legit. He's going to do some work in the NFL. It's taken a couple years, and yeah, he really didn't have the greatest last year, but he's only 26, and I really feel like he's entering that like prime. He's about to have a standout 3 to 4 years easy. He's really turning it up. He's really finding that groove, and I think the Jaguars' offensive line is finally somewhat better. I'm not gonna say they're great, but they're better than they have been. And you have better offensive line, you can run. It doesn't matter how good of a running back you are. If you don't have blocks and gaps and you're constantly getting blitzed and taken over, you can't do much, including Trevor Lawrence. But a fantastic game overall. Definitely a good shout. My last game of the week. This one might come as a surprise too. I picked the Bucks and the Texans as my last game of the week. It was a very low scoring game. It wasn't an offensive statistic crazy game. It was a slugfest. This was a pure defensive slugfest. Both defenses looked incredible. The Buccaneers defense looked fantastic. The Texans defense looked fantastic. I will say that both teams had a lot of missed opportunities. Both teams really had chances to get more points on the board, and it was just flat out missed. There was times CJ Stroud didn't look that good to me. Like I was shocked because there was a few times where he was overthrowing receivers. He had open men on the field. He wasn't getting his checkdowns right. He wasn't going through his motions right. His fundamentals looked shaky at times, but I will give credit. The Buccaneers were really getting after him and throwing a lot of different looks at him. And we know the Bucs pride themselves in their defensive schemes. But it was a fantastic game. And I really think, too, for the Buccaneers, Bucky Irving really was the highlight for me for that team. He just was on almost a different level this game. He was consistent. He was explosive. He was, even in a slugfest like this, if you're constantly getting like 5 to 6 yard gains, that goes to prove a lot. And I think a lot of question marks we had about Bucky Irving is showing that he's really going to have that solid season. And so far, even White, too, as a backup running back, was looking good. So the Buccaneers and the Texans highlights, too. But the Buccaneers, for 4 straight years now, have started the season 2-0. That is a crazy statistic to be that consistent throughout. Like I said, offensively, not that prominent, but it was a fun football game to watch, and it was just down in the trenches for a football game. So that's my 5th game of the week.
I had a different game for my 4th game. I do have the Bucks and the Texans for my last game, so since you went ahead and started that, I'll comment on that and then go to my last game. That was a crazy game. like you said, Bucky Irvin, he had a fantastic game. But you want to know the difference yardage wise between Bucky Irvin and Rachaad White? We're looking at 5 yards. Bucky Irvin ran 71 yards and Rachaad White 65 yards. It's something else. Bucky Irvin he's taking that dual role. Rachaad White's not quite on the same level as he is, but Bucky's that guy that you can hand it off to and he's going to run and get you 4 or 5 yards, or somebody that you can pass it to, because he got 50 yards receiving and he got 71 yards rushing. So he was looking fantastic. Like you said, this game was it was a slugfest, but there's one thing that really bothered me. You are the Houston Texans. Your number 1 wide receiver was only able to get 3 receptions for 52 yards. That's got to make you nervous as a Texans organization, that your number 1 wide receiver, the best that he can do is, number 1, get 3 out of 9 targets for 52 yards. He did get a touchdown, but I'm starting to lose faith in the Houston Texans. I had them winning the division when we picked our divisions, but right now I'm losing confidence in this team. I'm not seeing anything that showed me that they're a winner. Nick Chubb had a decent game. He was able to get a nice touchdown run for 40. He got 43 total yards, 12 carries, but there is nothing impressive that I have seen from this Texans offense this year, and it's really the best thing they got going for them offensively right now is Kymie Fairbairn. I mean, really, honestly, like, I hate to say that, but he's really the only thing that they've got going for him right now. But I think that this fourth quarter, it was sloppy, very sloppy. You know, down to like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, the Buccaneers go 3 and out. Okay, 3 and out. They punt it to the Texans. Texans are able to capitalize on that drive, and that's when Nick Chubb got his 25-yard touchdown. And I texted you about that time, I think, when I said that Baker Mayfield had fumbled it. He caused his own self to fumble the ball. Who does that? Like, you know, you can't always be one of those scrambling quarterbacks. Toby referred to him as Timu Josh Allen. I about died and fell off the couch when he told me that. But he's running. Nobody's even trying to tackle him. He bumps the football with his other hand and causes himself to fumble the football. I mean, come on, man. I don't know. Like, it was just like, I don't know. They got lucky on the fourth quarter. You know, it was just very sloppy. It seems like both teams were just ready to quit by the fourth quarter. But I think that the Bucs they're looking good. They got sloppy. They got really sloppy towards the fourth quarter. Houston Texans, it's not looking good. Not looking good. And then for my last game, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels show. Mike Vrabel finally got his first win. AFC East division game, 33-27 against the Miami Dolphins. What a game. Crazy game. 33-27. Drake May, ladies and gentlemen, 230 passing yards. Finally starting to blossom there in New England. Somebody else really that just really impressed me during this game was Ramondre Stevenson. He had 11 carries for 54 yards and 5 receptions for 88 yards. He was the stud for this game. Not to discredit the Dolphins, because the Dolphins look like a well-oiled machine. I don't know what happened to them either. That's another one of those teams that they were non-existent during week 1, but week 2 they really came alive. Tua had 315 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. And we finally saw some productive numbers from Tyreek Hill. He had 6 receptions for 109 yards. We had 3 sacks this game. 2 of them from Williams on the Patriots and 1 of them from Bradley Chubb. So the defense was there too. This was just a AFC East, just good old-fashioned slugfest. 333 total yards of offense for the Patriots. 358 total yards of offense for the Dolphins. that was a really good game. I really enjoyed the highlights for that game.
The Dolphins are definitely coming out and showing that they're not done yet. I do know that little insider info. They did have a player-only meeting previous to this game happening. I don't know what that entailed, but whatever they did in that meeting clearly seemed to kick some things into motion. So don't count the Dolphins out just yet. I won't count the Texans out just yet either, but don't count the Dolphins or the Texans out just yet.
One more thing before we move on for this game that I have not seen in a long time. I don't know that I have ever seen this. You had 2 back-to-back scores on returns. So in the fourth quarter, Malik Washington for Miami returned a 74-yard punt return for a touchdown. Then immediately after the Dolphins kick it off to the Patriots, Antonio Gibson had a 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. That was, if you guys haven't seen it, look it up. It was very, very cool.
It was indeed. So that wraps up segment 1 for the podcast. Moving on to topic number 2, right at the 30-minute mark. We're gonna go over week 3 predictions. This one's gonna be fun. I can already tell we're probably gonna be quite a bit different on this. So let's just go. Oh, you say 4 apiece?
Sure.
Let's do 4 apiece. I don't know if that's an order of mine, so it doesn't really matter. Bills and the Dolphins. I'm starting out with the easier ones, the Bills. The Dolphins gave me a little bit of hope, but it was against the Patriots, not against the Bills. I think the Bills run away with this one, much like they did against the Jets. I was thinking the Jets game would be closer, so now I just don't think the Bills and the Dolphins game will be closer. Got the Bills. Enough said. The Bengals and the Vikings. The battle of the backup quarterbacks. I had to go with my gut feeling of who I thought was the better backup quarterback, but it wasn't really the quarterbacks that I picked this. The reason I picked this was the defense. And right now, I think the Vikings have the superior defense. I think they're going to shut down Mr. Browning.
Wow.
I don't think he's going to have a chance to do anything because the Vikings have a scary defense. Every game I've watched, they do as much as they can when they're on the field most of the game. I do think the Vikings take over. Carson Wentz is a seasoned backup. He is supposed to be starting, to my knowledge. If that changes,
that's as far as I'm concerned. He's supposed to be starting.
I think the Vikings will take this over simply just because of their defense. So this one was a tough pick for me. Texans and Jaguars. Man, like Seth said, the Texans have just been really disappointing so far. I had to go with the Jaguars. I've seen a lot more from the Jaguars to make me think that the Jaguars are a better team than the Texans right now. I don't think that's ill-informed. I just, the Texans aren't giving me enough. Maybe they can turn that around, but I think the Jaguars are selling right now, even coming off of a close loss against the Bengals. Both teams are hungry for a win, and I think Jaguars take it over them. Colts and the Titans. I won't say this one was easy, but it was pretty easy. The Colts, you can't pick against the Colts right now. They just look good. The Titans.
I've only been trying to tell you that for the last 2 weeks.
They still should have lost to the Broncos. But I think the Colts definitely look better. The Titans are still working out quite a few kinks. And they didn't have a bad performance this week against the Rams, but there wasn't enough there to make me think they can knock off.
Okay, the good old AFC East battle between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. I chose the Buffalo Bills. They are going to squish the fish. Second game, Bengals and Vikings. Like Toby said, battle of the backup quarterbacks. You got Jake Browning and Carson Wentz. I, however, went with the Bengals. No. Chose the Bengals. I think that the Bengals are looking better offensively. Not to take away from the Vikings defense, but as much as they struggled against Atlanta, I'm going with the Bengals on that one. Texans, Jaguars. I agree. Jaguars all the way. 1-1. I really feel that they should be 2-0 myself. They've had 2 great games. Liam Cohen is doing really good things in Jacksonville. Everybody's just kind of meshing there. So I went Jaguars over Texans. And the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans. The obvious choice is the Indianapolis Colts. They are on fire, and I don't think that you're going to see that fire get put out anytime soon. So you want to just keep going down the list that way? Okay. So for the next 4 games, Pittsburgh versus New England. I chose New England over Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
Drake May and Ramondre Stevenson really impressed me a lot this game. Really, I guess the biggest thing that really is making me question the Pittsburgh Steelers right now is they had such a close game with the Jets week 1, and then week 2 they didn't even show up to play. Like, the Seahawks destroyed them, and it's like, what happened to you guys? Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns week 1. What happened? So I went with Patriots on that one. Green Bay versus Cleveland Browns. I chose the Packers. They're hot. I don't really see that fire going out anytime soon. I know that Jaden Reed is out, but I don't think that's going to be enough to cramp their style. I think that they'll keep pushing on. The Rams and the Eagles. I went with the Eagles on this one. Eagles are looking good still. The Rams are looking good, but I don't think they're good enough to take on the Eagles, so I chose the Eagles. And then Jets versus Bucks. I chose the Bucks. Bucks are undefeated. I think that the Jets are going to give them a good run for their money. If Justin Fields plays that game, I think that the Jets could possibly win that game. But with the absence of Justin Fields, and we're not sure if he's going to play, I had to go with the Bucks on that one. I know that the Jets are hungry. The Jets haven't won a game. The Jets got a lot of talent on that team. So do the Buccaneers, but I like the Buccaneers better.
Which, to be fair, the Jets' backup quarterback is a Bills Mafia legend. Tyrod Taylor did score the only touchdown for the Jets against the Buffalo Bills. So that's something to keep in mind, but I'll go over that later. Let's see. Steelers and the Patriots. I went with the Steelers. The Patriots played the Miami Dolphins, and I think Mike Tomlin and crew at home against the Patriots are going to take everything that they needed to adjust, because this is what Mike Tomlin does. He's an elite coach for a reason. And the Steelers, I think, have a much better defense than the Miami Dolphins. I think the Steelers lock down the Patriots. I think it will be a duel. I think it will be a close game, but I think the Steelers edge out the Patriots on this one. Our picks were a little bit out of order, so I'm just going to go next with, I think what Seth said, Packers and the Browns. I also chose the Packers. Man, the Browns have a really, really rough schedule. After this, they just got absolutely destroyed by the Ravens, who no one is on the level right now except the Buffalo Bills. They just got destroyed. Now they're playing the Packers back to back. That's going to be tough. The Browns, they're struggling. They got embarrassed by the Ravens. I don't think it'll be much different here against the Packers. You're talking about two elite defenses, but a good offense versus a bad offense. So had to go with the Packers. Rams and the Eagles. I went with the Rams.
No, you didn't.
I think the Rams can upset the Eagles.
Wow.
I really do. If you watch that Chiefs-Eagles game, I know it was Super Bowl rematch, but the Eagles didn't really look that good. I don't think they did. Jalen Hurts didn't have a great game, and there was some balls that he threw that I was just like, good Lord, who's going to catch that? I don't think they looked that good. I don't think the Chiefs looked good either. I don't think either team looked that good. I think the Rams have been performing well. I think Matthew Stafford, as long as he doesn't get hurt, fingers crossed, I think they can knock off the Eagles. The Rams are doing some work. That connection with Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams is starting to get going. I think they can knock off the Eagles. The Eagles defense stepped up against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs also don't really have any weapons right now. Travis Kelce's old. He's married now to that thing.
I thought he was just engaged.
He's engaged.
Anyway, it's irrelevant.
They perform rituals on the side. I don't know. Whatever the case is, the Chiefs don't have weapons. So I think the Rams knock off the Eagles here. And the last one, well, not really the last one, but just going through the order. Dun, dun, dun. The Jets and the Bucks. I also picked the Buccaneers. I think the Jets are really going to struggle. Tyrod Taylor can only do so much for this poor team that's just all over the place. Don't know what's happening with the Jets. I think they can, like Seth said, I think they can beat the Bucks. But right now I've got the Bucks. So for the next 4 games, this one's going to be, well, not this one, but the next one. Falcons and the Panthers. I chose the Falcons. The Panthers, I will say, Bryce Young really stepped up last week and really showed kind of what I talked about earlier this season.
Close
about
game.
him being able to do some work. Hunter Renfrow coming off those rib injuries. You know, he's trying to get back in that rhythm. I think the Panthers could knock off the Falcons. I really do. But I do think the Falcons are motivated. They are hungry, and I think they knock off the Panthers. The Raiders and the Commanders. Oh boy, this one was. I watched the Raiders and the Chargers game. That was rough. If you're a Raiders fan, that was tough. Geno did not have a good game. He did not have a good game. But I will say the Chargers have one of the best defenses in the league, and they were reading him like a book. Like they really were. They were throwing everything at him. Ashton Genty couldn't get the run game going. But the Commanders are hurt. They just lost their starting running back. Their starting quarterback is out right now with a knee injury. They've got Marcus Mariota as the backup. I don't think that's enough. I think the Raiders beat the Commanders. I don't think it's a crazy pick. I think the Raiders come back. They show that they've got some fight in them, and I think they knock the Commanders off. So I've got the Raiders winning this one. Upset pick number 2, I guess. Broncos and Chargers. Oh, Lord have mercy. This one was tough.
What? Tough.
This one was tough. This one was tough just because I know our history against the Chargers. I know, like, watching the Colts game, then watching the Chargers Raiders games, this one gave me some question marks. I had to pick the Broncos, and I picked the Broncos not just out of pure bias, though that does infiltrate some of my decision making. Last year, the Chargers beat the Broncos by a touchdown both games, 23-16 and 34-27. That's tough. That's tough. This is a rivalry game. You just don't want that to happen. And I think the Broncos, after losing a heartbreaking game to the Colts, are going to come in motivated. They're sick of losing to the Chargers. We don't want to lose to the Chargers, the yucky old Chargers. We don't want to lose to the Chiefs. We're not going to lose to any of them this year. That's why the Broncos are going to do their magic. They're going to make Justin Herbert look silly. He's not going to look like an MVP candidate. He's going to look like he just flew out of here from Cancun and he's out sunbathing. He's not going to have a good game. He's going to get sacked. He's going to get tackled. He's going to get under pressure. He's going to throw it randomly to the 3 linebackers that are just sitting there because he did that against the Raiders too, even though he had 10 seconds. The Broncos are going to knock it off because they just don't like the Chargers. And that's that. Problem solved. And for my 8th game here, before I hand it over to Seth, is the Saints and the Seahawks. I just flipped a coin on this one. I had to go with the Seahawks simply just off of their win.
Flip the coin?
I mean, the Saints didn't look bad. They didn't look bad last week. Spencer Rattler did some stuff. They didn't look terrible. But, the Seahawks did just beat the Steelers. So I had to go with the Seahawks. But I think you could flip a coin.
Okay, Falcons, Panthers. I went with the Falcons. Obvious choice on that one. Until the Panthers can show me that they can win a game, I'm not going to pick the Panthers. Falcons are looking too good offensively, so I chose the Falcons. Washington and Las Vegas. I chose the Commanders for this one. Jaden Daniels hasn't been ruled out. He is a day-to-day.
No way they started.
It's possible. He got hurt last year, and they didn't think he was going to play against the Bears, and he ended up playing. It's very possible he could bounce back. They didn't really speak on the severity of his injury. I know losing. They lost Brian Robinson Jr. I know that's going to hurt. And I know with Austin Eckler with the Achilles injury out, people are questionable, but I think you're going to see Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt just be that back that they need him to be. Maybe I'm putting too many eggs in this basket, but I have high expectations for him, so I chose the Commanders. I don't know, just the Raiders are just too hot and too cold. I haven't seen the consistency. Week 1, come in like, oh man, I'm a well-oiled machine. Boom, boom, boom. Then against the Chargers, like, whoa, I'm in kindergarten. It's like the Helen Keller School for the Blind out there. Bad, terrible, very disappointed. I was expecting like a big AFC West matchup there, but it is what it is. Commanders over Raiders. And then when it comes to this other AFC West rivalry game between the Denver Broncos and the Chargers, I had to go with the Chargers. Chargers all the way. The Broncos are going to be staying in the Heartbreak Hotel for another week after this one. Chargers are too hot. Too hot. And then Saints, Seahawks, no coin toss for me. Seahawks are going to win this game. Sam Darnold taking care of business. And then to wrap up the last 4 games of the Week 3 slate, you got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chicago Bears. I went with the Dallas Cowboys to win over the Chicago Bears. They're looking good. I mean, they have looked good since Week 1. I know they lost against the Eagles, but they've looked good coming out of the gate, and I'm expecting big things for them. I think they're going to have a little bit of a hard time against the Bears defense, but I'm still looking for Dallas for the win.
The Lions didn't.
But, Cardinals, 49ers. 49ers is a mystery team right now with the injury bugs that they have. But with Mac Jones, he's come in there and, he's actually filled the role. I'm not going to say he's been a stud, but he's done his job. They're battling the injuries. They still have McCaffrey. Now, if McCaffrey goes down, I think that the 49ers are really going to struggle. But even though with all the injuries, they're still making it. So I've got to go with the 49ers over the Cardinals. The Cardinals are still just kind of to me. I haven't really seen anything that just strikes, I'm a champion. I mean, I know that they haven't lost, but I expect Kyle Shanahan to take care of the Cardinals. Now this, buddy, this is going to shake the world right here. The primetime game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Giants. I have the New York Giants with the upset against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just so hot right now coming off of this game with Dallas. You really saw what their wide receiver core could do. I'm taking the Giants for the upset. And then for the Monday night game with the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens, I went Baltimore Ravens over the Detroit Lions.
Good picks. Cowboys and Bears. I also chose the Cowboys. There's not enough here. The Chicago Bears are still the Chicago Bears. I don't need to go into depth. I think the Cowboys run away with this one. I think it'll be close for a little while, and the Cowboys will take it comfortably. Cardinals and the 49ers. Seth gave me so much crap at the beginning of this year because I was hyping up the Cardinals, saying that the Cardinals could have a decent chance this year. They could have a decent chance in this division. Oh, no. The Cardinals haven't lost a game. The 49ers are out here slinging around the hospital. They're just trying to put together a starting roster. The Cardinals take the 49ers down. This ain't even close. The Cardinals are going to walk into here and be like, hey, we're the Arizona Cardinals. We're actually good this year. We're going to make Larry Fitzgerald proud. Cardinals knock out the 49ers. You heard it here first. Chiefs and the Giants. It's hard to say it's an upset because they're both 0-2.
But the Giants are definitely the underdog here.
They are the underdog. I picked the Chiefs.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
There's a lot about this game, a lot of question marks, a lot of questions that I don't think will be answered from this game. I think these questions are going to be here through both of these teams' season. I think we're starting to see a clear shift in the NFL between the good teams and the hot and cold teams. The good teams are the teams like the Colts, the Ravens, the Bills, the Broncos, the teams that are consistently performing well. Even in a loss, they're showing that they are not
still contenders.
Yeah, they're not flip or flop. And then people like the Giants, people like I'm not going to keep listing off names. I don't want to offend anyone, but the Giants is that team. The Giants and the Raiders are those teams that you just don't know yet. They're good, they're bad. They're bad, they're good. We just don't know what we're going to get. I think Russell Wilson could do what he did against the Cowboys, against the Chiefs, but he's a big question mark. He's like the number one boomer bust player right now in the league. You just don't know what's going to happen. We know the Giants want to switch to Jackson Dart eventually. We know that. That's what they're putting in the reins for. But right now, Russell Wilson could have that crazy season. But there's just too many question marks. And I think the Chiefs, as broken down as they are, they didn't look good against the Eagles. But I think they can turn around. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. We can't discredit that magic. And Russell Wilson needs more consistency for me to pick him. So I've got the Chiefs. The primetime matchup, game of the week. The Ravens, man, they look good, and the Lions look good, but I just have to go off of what I've seen recently. Both these teams decimated their opponents, and week one, I think the Ravens had a better performance against the Titan than the Lions did. So I have to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
Good choice.
I think the Lions could definitely win this game. This is the coin toss of any matchup. But I think I just have to base it off, well, the Ravens did choke against the Bills, but that was Josh Allen MVP coming out. The Lions just played plumb bad against the Packers. And so you pick that against the Ravens defense, who, like I said, has multiple Defensive Player of the Year candidates, in my opinion, on that defensive roster. Though they did get ran over by Josh Allen, but that's Josh Allen. They took care of business against the Browns, and I think the Ravens take care of business against the Lions. I think it'll be a shootout, and I think it'll be extremely close. But I think the Ravens will take it over the Lions. So that wraps up week 2 predictions. So now let's jump into the fun segment. Well, it's all fun, but Seth, do you have an NFL trivia question ready?
I do.
All right, go for it.
This was really cool,
All right.
and I did not know this. So if you don't know the answer, don't feel bad because
I probably won't.
I had never heard this before until I was trying to do the research this week. So, Seth's trivia question for the week is: which NFL team in their franchise history has never had a game end in a tie? Which NFL team in their franchise history has never had a game end in a tie? And when I say an end in a tie, I don't mean like you go into overtime. You know how you do go to overtime and nobody scores and it is ruled a tie. That's what I'm referring to. Which NFL team in their franchise history has never had a game end in a tie? There is only one team in the NFL.
Is it a current NFL team?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I was just saying, if it's like the Oilers or something, then like
No.
it's a current NFL team.
Yes. Which NFL team in their franchise history has never had a game end in a tie? And your time starts now. Cue the Jeopardy theme song.
I really have no idea. Saints?
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. The correct answer is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the only current NFL team that has never had a game end in a tie. The Jaguars joined the league in 1995. They are still considered a relatively young franchise, but even newer teams like the Houston Texans, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers have recorded at least one tie.
I was gonna say the Texans. It was either the Saints or the Texans. I was just
Cool question. I thought that was really cool.
That is a really cool question. So Toby's NFL trivia question of the week for you. This one was also really fun. I almost picked another one, but I thought this one was really cool. You might actually know this one. Which NFL team has the most Hall of Famers?
Oh my, that's tough.
You're allowed one question since I asked you a question. You're one hint, I guess. One hint.
What conference? NFC. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to go with the historic Dallas Cowboys.
That is incorrect.
Oh,
It is, which probably a lot of older fans know this, the Chicago Bears.
oh, that's a good answer. I can see
Chicago
that.
Bears. NFL team of the most Hall of Famers is the Chicago Bears.
Do you have a number?
No.
Oh,
It didn't tell me the number. We can find out on Google, I suppose. How many Hall of Famers does the Bears have? 39.
wow.
That's a lot.
Goodness.
That is a lot. So, moving on to the NFL fun fact. One of my favorite segments to go over. The storied 2000 Baltimore Ravens, who won the Super Bowl that year, went 5 games that season where they didn't score a single touchdown.
Whoa.
In those 5 games, the only points scored were field goals from kicker Matt Stover.
Whoa. Interesting.
Went on to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't score a touchdown in 5 games that season. Can you believe that? That was something. That was an eye opener for sure. Before we jump into a brief question that was submitted to us, is there anything you want to go over, Seth? So we were asked a question. Seth will refresh my memory on this if I'm getting it wrong. It was our opinions and thoughts about NFL draft.
Yes. What was
2025
highs
NFL
and
draft.
lows takeaway from the NFL?
So, Seth and me both were not super into this draft, I guess. I monitored it more than Seth did. And obviously we know I'm more into college football than Seth is, but he's more in the NFL. But I'll just go over the first round pick. I'm not going to list each one. I'm just going to list the highlights in my opinion that were the best. Of course, Cam Ward going to the Titans. I think that was a great pick. I think Cam Ward will be fantastic. The negative pick for me from this draft was Travis Hunter. I didn't think Travis Hunter was a top 5 pick. I thought he was overhyped. I thought the Jaguars could have went with more needs than what they filled. I really do. Probably the best pick of this first round, in my opinion, the highlight of this first round for teams that really needed it was Abdul Carter from Penn State for the Giants. I think he was probably the best top 5 pick in my opinion. Of course, Mason Graham for the Michigan defensive tackle for the Browns. The Browns always go crazy on defense. And the Patriots picking up Will Campbell from LSU was a good pick. I'm just going solely off of those top 5 picks. Ashton Jeanty was a good pick.
You think so?
I think he was a good pick. I think he just needs development, and I think he needs a stronger offense around him to really start
I mean,
performing.
that's all
But
I heard about. Ashton Jeanty. He's going to be the man this year. It's about like John Gruden with Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel. I don't know.
I think the problem was he played at Boise State. And so you jump from Boise State caliber opponents straight to the NFL, you're not going to look like you did at Boise State. But if you watch him, he's doing what he can, but he's still played against good defenses so far.
I will say, just as far as just first round picks goes, one of the best that I have seen pan out this season for the first 2 weeks was the addition of Tyler Warren to the Colts. That was a really good pickup for them, in my opinion. I think that was a very, very good value pick for them, and he's proven to be not a wasted pick.
Other couple notable picks, and then we'll wrap this up. I think one of the best picks so far from the draft that has performed out of the NFL round 1 was Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. That was a fantastic. See, honestly, if I was the Jaguars, I would have drafted him over Travis Hunter. I would have. I think that was him falling as low as he did was tragic for other teams. And then I would say, though it hasn't been maybe as much as we were hoping for, Matthew Golden out of Texas for the Packers was a really good snag. I think those were the 2 best receivers out of this class. I think Abuka has just had a much better showing so far. But that will be our little highlight segment of the NFL draft. Like I said, we can't offer too much because we weren't super into it this year. Yeah, it's just being straight up honest. Yeah. So speaking of questions, just a friendly reminder: if you have any questions, anything at all that you want to see us talk about or ask us specifically, fill out the Google form below or comment on YouTube Shorts. This down below on the podcast episode. Comment on Instagram. However you want to do it. Just leave it anywhere. We'll see it. Promise we'll see it somewhere. If we don't see it, spam us, send us a message. We will get to it. Lots of fun this episode. Lots to go over. So Seth, closing thoughts.
I will just for giggles and because I like involvement from all of you out there. I have to say, my friend Michael, he is a good fan, and he is the perfect fan as far as he will tell you what he thinks, whether he agrees with you, whether he disagrees with you, what he agrees with you, or like, why did you say that? You've lost your mind. But just for giggles, in the comment section, tell me who you think's going to win between the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. I want to know from you, what is your take on this game? Thank you for listening. As always, I've enjoyed this. God bless you.
Everyone, stay safe out there. Scary time in our nation. Keep all these families in your prayers. Go to church, read your Bible, keep your walk going with the Lord, and seek Jesus, because that's all we can really do. Hopefully this podcast motivates you to do that, and you have just as much fun as we do. So we'll see you next week in episode 6.